like that, it vibrates. Dudes, welcome back to another video on the 93 Ranger build. Today we're going to be working on getting the front fenders and hood mounted to the truck. We're actually going to be using the Advanced Fiberglass Concepts front fenders and an AutoFab hood. We decided to go with the AutoFab hood just because it has this internal bracing. We also have, there's actually a bug parked here now, but on the 92 F-150 build that we've done, we have all AutoFab products on that, and their glass always fits super good. It's always been well known to be thick, so this stuff is always good. The Advanced Fiberglass Concepts front fenders, they have been known as Glassworks. They rebranded themselves. These front fenders are super thick as well. Everything looks super good. I have test fit them. As you saw in the last video, Ryan got a little ahead of himself and got one of the fenders just mocked up there just as a joke, just to see, but they did look like they fit pretty well, so we're gonna get started on these right now. I don't think there's gonna be any issues, but I'm gonna walk you guys through, or at least try to. I haven't mounted very many of these fenders, but we're gonna try to attempt to mount these fenders and hood to the truck, so let's get started. Ooh, before I forget, I just got a new Gopro, so I'm gonna be trying this thing out, a couple different angles, hopefully be able to get into the fender wells a little bit better while I'm working so you guys can see what I'm doing. But on these front fenders and stuff, I think I'm just gonna set the GoPro up just somewhere, just as on a time lapse, and then you guys will be able to see what I'm doing. So obviously first step is getting the stock fender off of the truck, which we've already done. The next step is gonna be, if you want to, clearing the inner fender well out, which we will be doing, but I'm gonna actually go ahead and mount the glass first. I think it'll just make things a little bit easier, but the cool part about any fiberglass nowadays is they have a lip that you can reuse this stock mounting location for the front fenders. So basically these fenders bolt right up to the stock location. So on these Rangers, the one thing that I have noticed, once you get the truck to this point and you're ready to actually set the fender on the truck, what I do before I actually do anything is there's usually a little lip right here. You'll see if your truck has it. There's a lip right here that usually comes down. It actually hits the fender when you hang it up there. So what I do is I just go in, cut this out on both sides, because the fender actually will sit right here, and you can run a bolt through this side into the fender if you wanted later, but the face of the fender does sit right here. So the bulge that is right here does get in the way. So I did have to cut that out on both sides, but super simple, just an angle grinder. Just make sure you watch the paint and the glass. But we can take this fender right here, just kind of hold it up there. It'll kind of hold itself into place. So as you can see, it basically holds itself. This glass fits very, very well to the stock location. So there's a couple pickup points that we are going to use. So like I said, there's 4 points up here that you use. There's 1 point down here, which I've already drilled out. So there's one little post right here that you can get to, right there. And then there's also one hole right down here. So altogether, there's 6 bolts holding this fender on total. So that should be enough. It doesn't flex very much at all. But what you want to do, the first thing is come in here. Once the fenders fit properly, it's kind of sitting where you want it. What I did is I came up in here, just took a pen, figured out where exactly the holes are, marked it with a Sharpie, and then started drilling these one by one along the top up here, and then just setting a simple, just the stock screw right here that the old fender came off with. I'm just putting those right back in one by one. So what I'm doing is I'm just going through here one by one, starting at the very front and working my way back, just getting the holes drilled and lined up with where the factory hole is underneath. So I got the first one in. I'm just going super, I'm not making them very tight, just not even snug, just in there enough to where it'll hold the fender, because I want to be able to position it and get it exactly where I want it once the hood and everything's here, because all this stuff is going to have to take a little bit of tweaking to get it to fit right. So let's get these in here. Like I said, I've already got all these drilled, so what you're gonna do is just go through here one by one, drill, put the bolt in, drill, put the bolt in, all the way till you get to the back. Bam, there we go. And a quick check. You can just check your body lines, make sure everything's lining up nice and straight. You can see this side fits very well all the way down, and also right here along the cowling on the front. So all we got to do now is this is just kind of loose. So there's one bolt right down here, and then there's also, like I said, one bolt right here. So What I did is just look from behind, took a Sharpie, marked it, and then drilled the hole out. And then you may have to oval the hole out just a little bit to get it to fit right, but this fiberglass is pretty unforgiving, so most of the screws that you use too have a washer, so it'll cover up a little bit bigger hole if you have to oval it out too. When you're tightening this down too, you can also check to make sure all your body lines are good, and you can kind of manipulate it a little bit while you're putting the bolt in. Just like that. All the body lines here are nice and straight. And also around here where the headlight goes, all the body lines are nice and perfect. So that's exactly what we're looking for. It's as easy as that to mount fenders, as crazy as it is. But from this point, what we can do is, since the tire and everything, we still got to cycle everything for shock mounts and stuff like that. I need to come back in here and see if this needs to be clearanced at all for the tire at full bump and full lock. So this lip may be trimmed out a little bit too. With this size tire, I don't think we're gonna have very many issues, but if he bumps up to a 35 later down the road, I think he's definitely gonna have to clearance the inside of the lip of the fender out. But we won't know until we start cycling everything. So right now, this fender's good to go. We can start working on the hood and getting the other fender mounted. We got the hood sitting up there. Body line right here to the cowling looks pretty good. You want to leave a decent gap back here because the hood is going to come up. On this particular setup, we're going to be using the stock hinges in the back, and then we're going to be utilizing 2 hood pins in the front to hold it down, so there's no more hood latch, none of that stuff. You just pull 2 pins in the front, lift the hood up, and it comes right up. And we're also going to be using some gas struts to hold it up. So just like my daily driver, it's going to be the same similar setup to that, so should work out pretty good. Body lines on this aren't the worst. It's definitely going to take a little bit of work to get these looking a little bit better. They come out to the front right here. They come out a little bit wider in the front, I should say. Looks like both sides. But I think just a little bit of finessing, we can get these things fitting really good. But I do want to get the hood mounted first. That way everything's solidly exactly where it'll be. And then we can start trimming from there. That way we're not chasing our tails. Now the fenders went quick because I had those already mounted, but the hood I have not started on yet. So I think the first step with that is going to be coming up in here. Now that I have the hood kind of where I want it, I'll be able to come up under here where the hinges are, mark with a Sharpie, and then on both sides, and then I'll be able to pull the hood off. And then I'm going to be utilizing these stock pieces right here that will end up slipping into this hood, and then that'll hold it to the hinge with these bolts right here. So instead of having a bolt with a nut, that will sit itself in the hood, and you will only have to tighten just the nut side, or just the bolt side, sorry. Now that these are marked inside of the hood, I'll be able to start drilling the holes. So as you can see, AutoFab already puts kind of these indents in the hood roughly where you need to drill the holes. They're almost there. They're really close. I think this side's a little bit more off. It's a little bit more inwards towards the center of the hood, but very, very close. If you wanted to, you could honestly probably just drill these holes out and then that would work, but I'm just gonna do it exact to how this truck wants it to fit. So I'm gonna go off my reference marks instead. I just need to drill some holes here, and then there's also gonna be 2 more holes inside of here for the way the clip works. So to be able to slide this in, you need to be able to drill 2 holes inside of here. So this will end up sitting in here just like that underneath the hood, or inside of this little pocket, and then it clips itself in there. So on the stock hood, as you can see right here, I'm gonna have to do something similar to this so that this hook just slides right up inside of there. I don't want to put it in there because they're kind of a pain in the butt to get out, but this slides right up onto there, and then the bolt goes through that top hole. So very simple, should be easy to drill this out. So let's get started drilling some holes. and we got a hood. I don't know what happened, but looked like one of the bolts maybe stripping out a little bit. I think I just got to chase the threads on it, but she's up there for now. Fits pretty decent. I got to mess with the body lines a little bit, but we definitely got a hood on some hinges. Now I can work on the struts. Struts are going to end up coming off of somewhere up here and then just going to get riveted to somewhere up here, just in the best ratio, so it will prop the hood up so you don't have to hold it. And it'll just be some gas struts. So we'll get started on that, and then we also need to do the hood pins. There's going to be 2 on the very top, or on the very front of the hood, holding it down, which is going to be mounted somewhere off the core support up here. So I got to figure all that out still, but let's get started on these struts. Here's the kit right here for the struts that are going to be going on the hood. The kit is actually made by Redline Tuning. It's just a generic kit for 93 to 2011 Ford Ranger. If you have ever owned a Ford Ranger, you know these do not come with, obviously, a gas-powered strut. They don't come with anything to hold the hood up other than the simple little piece that you wiggle up and just stick in the hood, just kind of like how I have this propped in here now. That's removed because we knew we were going to be doing these struts, so now we'll be adding these 2 struts. It comes with a couple brackets right here, a couple rivets, and then a couple bolts. So I'm going to bust into these instructions and see how these things go on, but pretty sure this is going to be pretty straightforward. The first thing for mounting these struts is we need to mark the location for these brackets that actually mount to the hood. So to do that, they want you to take a measurement from the very back of the hood right here next to the windshield, and you want to go forward all the way to 26.5 and mark it on the hood, just like that. And then that'll be the center point for where this ball needs to sit, right in here on the hood. You want to take the ball and line it up directly with where your mark is. As you can see, this doesn't fit to the hood very well, so what I'm going to do is take a hammer, just beat a little angle out of this to get it to fit to this contour a little bit better. So you can see there's too much angle in it now, so I'm going to take a little bit out, get it to sit a little bit more flat, and then that should help. Got a little angle out of this. It fits up to the bottom of the hood way better now. So what I'm going to do is line this ball up with my mark, and then take a pen and just start marking these holes one by one. So I'll mark a hole, drill it out, take my rivet gun, put your rivet in, get this line back up, a few pumps. Bam. There's one. So there's 2 more we got to do on this side, and then the other side is going to take 3 as well, so I'll get started on that right now. So now that we got the top ones on, we're going to go ahead and get these lower ones put on. So what they say to do is measure from the back lip of the fender and come forward 7.5 inches. And that's where this will end up sitting, just like that, with the ball facing towards the outside of the truck. So to mount this, they give you 2 self-tappers for each side to go straight down through the fender just to mount it. But first, I just looked at the instructions. It's actually 7.1/8 inches from the edge of the fender to the center of where that ball is. So what we're gonna do is take a tape. We'll go 7.1/8. It's gonna be right there. And then it also says you want this to be as far to the inside, push it as far to the inside of the truck as you can. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. These self-tappers are an 8mm socket to get them in. So there's one side. We're all in. I'm going to go ahead and get the other side put on. Both struts are up on the hood now. Let's see if this thing closes. Perfect. Nice and easy. Comes right back up and it holds itself just like it should. It's currently next day. Yesterday we got the struts installed as well as getting the hood actually mounted to the truck. Today we're going to focus on getting the hood pins mounted on the very front of the hood to keep the hood secured when you're driving down the road. So to do that, I made these plates already. They're gonna get welded to the core support right here. But the purpose of that is it's covering a bunch of gross holes in the core support, so you're not gonna see those anymore. I made this out of 10 gauge, which is probably overkill. I'm gonna TIG weld this to the core support, and then this hood pin right here, which is made by AutoFab. This black piece is gonna get mounted into the hood, but the pin itself has to get welded to this plate. So I need to get this core support all cleaned up first and prepped so I can weld this plate to the core support, and then I can tack this hood pin onto the plate. And then we can figure out where the holes are gonna go in the hood. So I'm gonna start with just prepping the surface and then getting the plate tacked up. We're making some good progress on these hood pins. So far we've added the plate to the core support, got that all burned in. The reason I added that plate, there's two reasons. The first one, it's adding a little bit of height because these pins are pretty short. The distance between the hood and the core support is kind of pushing it for this pin. So adding that 1/8 of an inch is helping just a tiny bit. But the main reason for this is I very well could have just taken this hood pin, cleaned up the core support, and just tacked it straight to the core support. But the reason I added the plate is because it's adding surface area. So this hood pin is very small, the portion that you actually weld it to the core support. So if I just welded this straight to here, it has a tendency to be able to crack off very easily because the core support material is very thin. So adding the plate is just making the thickness even thicker and just making it a lot more strong. So that is the way I did that. Now all I need to do is take a little bit of this anti-seize. I'm just going to take a little bit, put it on the very tops of these pins. And the reason I'm doing this is because when I bring the hood down, when the pin touches the hood, it should show me exactly where to put the holes. So let's try this right now. And boom. So I don't know if you guys can see, but there's a mark right there and a mark right there. Perfect little holes, and that's exactly where I need to drill my holes. There's one dot right there and another dot right there. So all I need to do is just take a drill bit now and drill those out, and then make it big enough to fit the pin, and then eventually I'll have to make the hole big enough to fit this inside of it. So this piece right here slides into the hood, and then all you see is just this on top with the 4 bolts holding it in. So we'll start with the smaller hole and just get the pins fitting first, make sure everything lines up correctly, and then we'll start stepping the hole up. So jumping ahead a little bit, I went ahead and welded up the hood pins to the core support, and I also got the rubber piece that goes into the hood bolted in as well. So what I need to do now is take the pin. The hole for the pin right here is a little bit too high on both of them right now. So what I need to go ahead and do is cut them down a little bit. I need to take about a 1/2 inch off of both of these to be able to get the hole to line up with the top of this rubber piece. That way when you slide the pin in to hold the hood down, it puts a little bit of tension on it when you're going down the road, and it doesn't buffer and make a whole bunch of noise and it'll shake, which is not what you want. So let's get these cut down, and then this hood should be mounted and ready to go. Wham. Now let's see. So these are cut down. Let's see if they're gonna fit. These hood pins out of here. So close it, tight fit, And what you do is you take your hood pin, you open it up just like so. Look at that. Perfect height. It's not gonna come up when you're driving down the road because air tends to catch underneath here. This turns into a big flap and then your hood just goes bah, 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 bah. Just like that, it vibrates. But if you have these tight enough, it shouldn't be an issue. Now that everything is actually mounted to the truck and permanent, what I can do now is come back and clean up all these lines because you can see they're not perfect. So I can come back in here with a zip, with like a rotor, and make a nice straight line all the way up here on both sides. This side's a little bit better, but you can tell it's still not perfect. So I'll come back in here and clean this up. But for right now, glass is mounted. Now I can start cycling the suspension and getting shock mounts and all that stuff done. If you don't have one of these, I highly suggest investing in one because they come in handy. I think that's gonna do it for this video though. I wanted to make a video specifically installing just the fiberglass on the truck because I know a lot of people have questions regarding just mounting fenders and things like that. So hopefully that helps some of you guys. In the next video, we're gonna be working on getting the front shocks mounted, cycling the front end, getting the inner fender wells cut out to clear the tires, stuff like that. But mostly working on getting the shocks in the truck. So that's gonna be the next step. Until then, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.